From Thom Hartmann's Daily Take Substack. Trump's empire of lies and loot. The morbidly rich hide behind patriotism, drown us in lies, and strip the nation bare while we're told to blame our neighbors. Published Jan 24th, 2025. The following is a song inspired by this article.
They tell you it's freedom while they're picking your pocket. Smile on their faces as they're turning the lock. They sell you the future, but they're stealing today, while the truth gets buried and the people pay. They shout about greatness while they rig the game, stack the courts by the laws, hide behind the flame. They point at your neighbor, say that's who's to blame, but the billionaires laugh as they feed the flame. What's the real price of the lies Trump's billionaires tell? Your rights, your wages, your future they sell. They're looting the nation, they're gutting the dream, and you're left with the ashes of what might have been. They flood you with fury, they drown you in hate, so you won't see the cash pouring through their gates. They poison the airwaves, they poison the press, while your hope gets crushed in their gold-lined mess. You work and you struggle while they whine and they dine, tell you it's liberty as they steal what's mine. But the storm's on the horizon, the crowd's at the gate. It's time to rise up before it's too late. What's the real price of the lies Trump's billionaires tell? Your rights, your wages, your future as well. The chains they are forging, the truth they disguise. It's time we stop buying their poisonous lies.
Quote, "An imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics." Plutarch. People wonder out loud why the Trump administration would lie to us so frequently and so egregiously when the truth is so obvious. Just in the past few days, Cosplay Christie claiming that Senator Padilla was, quote, lunging, end quote, at her. J.D. Vance proclaiming that Los Angeles was filled with, quote, rioters egged on by the governor and the mayor, end quote. DNI Director Gabbard telling Congress under oath that the intelligence community does not believe Iran is building a nuke, then saying the opposite to the public on social media. Republican congresspeople and the Speaker of the House repeatedly promising that their billionaire tax cut legislation won't cut Medicaid as they revive Reagan's lie that tax cuts cut for the morbidly rich will help out the average working people. Stephen Miller's wife claiming that the number of fraudulent Social Security claims is 40%, when in fact it's so small to be functionally meaningless. Trump attacked Iran despite that country posing no threat to the United States whatsoever. ICE claiming that the father of 3 Marines that they beat to the ground and pounded on was trying to attack them with a weed whacker when in fact the video shows no such thing. The dirty little secret about fascism, authoritarianism, or whatever else you want to call the form of government Trump is trying to impose upon the United States, is that it's not even remotely legitimate government on behalf of we the people, but instead is merely a setup to steal everything that's not nailed down. Trump himself, after all, has already made at least $1 billion off his presidency in just the first 5 months. His son Barron just made at least $40 million, and his other sons are cashing in on deals with foreign governments that run into the billions. It's a haul worthy of Midas or Putin. Experts estimate that between 15 and 30% of the entire GDP of countries currently under authoritarian rule, like Russia and Hungary, is being skimmed off the top for the benefit of the leaders and their morbidly rich friends. The Nazis famously looted the wealth of Jewish and, quote, socialist, end quote, families and businesses and transferred that wealth to Hitler's friends, as did Mussolini, Franco, Pinochet, and Suharto back in the day, and El-Shishi, Erdogan, Khamenei, Mangaso, Aliyev, etc. in modern times. This is the model that Trump and the people surrounding him are following. It goes by many names, as mentioned: fascism, authoritarianism, autocracy, oligarchy, etc. But at their core, they're all simply modern reinventions of the old reign of warlord kings, where the people who hold the power use that power to enrich themselves while keeping everybody else poor. How else to explain the GOP's destruction of the modern American middle class over the past 44 years, as over $50 trillion has been looted from the average working people and shifted into the money bins of the morbidly rich? It's theft, pure and simple. And when people are being systematically robbed and finally figure it out, they usually try to rise up and throw off the chains of the morbidly rich have tried to fasten on them. Father of the Constitution, James Madison, was explicit in a speech he gave at the Constitutional Convention in 1787. Quote, "If all power be suffered to slide into the hands of rich property owners," he warned, "the American citizenry would become the dupes and instruments of ambition, or their poverty and independence will render them the mercenary instruments of wealth. In either case, liberty will be subverted, in the first by a despotism growing out of anarchy, in the second by an oligarchy founded on corruption." End quote. As Declaration of Independence author Thomas Jefferson, who died in bankruptcy, similarly explained in an 1816 letter to Samuel Kercheval, quote, "I am not among those who fear the people, and they, not the rich, are our dependents for continued freedom." End quote. He added that with the warning that if we were ever to end up with an oligarchic government that was run directly or indirectly by wealthy predators who'd seized our government, America's working people, quote, "must come into labor 16 hours in 24, and the 16th being insufficient to afford us bread, we must live, as they, poor Europeans, do now, on oatmeal, the potatoes. Have no time to think, no means of calling the mismanagers to account, but be glad to obtain sustenance by hiring ourselves to rivet their chains around our necks of our fellow sufferers." End quote. After all, Jefferson noted in an 1787 letter to Edward Carrington, quote, "It seems to be the law of our general nature, in spite of individual exceptions, and experience declares that man is the only animal which devours its own kind. For I can apply no milder term to the governments of Europe and to the general prey of the rich on the poor." End quote. Those riveting the chains on the necks of their fellow laborers today are the goons and troops Trump and Stephen Miller have sent into American cities to try to provoke the kind of unrest they can use to shut down all opposition and further rig the 2026 and 2028 elections. And in this, they're aided by the bought and paid for Republicans in Congress and on the Supreme Court. And make no mistake, they're dead set against crushing our opposition to their theft. Trying to justify their agents wearing masks to hide their identity, as Heather Cox Richardson points out, ICE acting director lied to the American people, saying, quote, "ICE officers have seen a staggering 413% increase in assaults against them," end quote. In fact, as Richardson points out, year-to-date assaults against Custom and Border Protections are currently 20% lower than they were in 2024, end quote. So, why do they constantly lie to us? Whether it's to justify gutting Social Security and the IRS, having undefiable goons kidnap non-criminals off our streets, harassing people arriving at our airports for their writings, or pushing through another $4 trillion in tax gifts to Trump's billionaire supporters. While the, quote, philosophers, end quote, of the hard right try to justify the brute force of the state being used against working people and the poor to the advantage of the morbidly rich with terms like, quote, economic freedom, market discipline, the dark enlightenment, and personal responsibility, end quote, what they're really defending is a rigged system where wealth is extracted upwards and dissent is punished with savage efficiency. It's really just simple theft, with, like in the days of King George III, the iron fist of the state as the enforcer for and protector of the morbidly rich predators. As Puff Daddy famously rapped, no matter how elegant their editorials and rants on Fox News and their elaborate political rationalizations may be for crushing nations, cutting billionaires' taxes, and allowing monopolies to flourish, in the end, quote, it's all about the Benjamins, end quote.